Welcome to the Futsal First Podcast. I'm your host, Jose Galindo, and we are thrilled to have you join us in what is going to be an interesting conversation that I'm sure you will enjoy. I'd like to start by thanking everyone in the futsal community and beyond for the overwhelming support for the Futsal First Podcast. Before we jump in, I want to give a special introduction to our guest, Marianna Tabain. Marianna is the captain of the Cockburn Wolves women's futsal team and has just returned from representing her country, playing for the Australian national women's futsal team at the AFC Women's Futsal Asian Cup in China, May 2025. I know Marianna well in my role as head coach of the Cockburn Wolves women's squad, and in this episode, we'll discuss her experience playing for Australia, how she got started, and her journey to the pinnacle of any athlete's career. So, without further ado, let's get started. Welcome, Marianna, and thank you for joining us on the Futsal First Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Jose.
I'll start with saying congratulations on representing Australia as part of the national women's futsal team. An absolutely massive achievement.
Thank you very much. Very good experience. I'm looking forward to chatting about it.
Well, that's right. Before we discuss your international experience representing Australia, I thought we could start earlier, like much earlier. Can you go back to the beginning and tell us the story of how the journey to representing your country began?
Oh, the very beginning. I'd say that my earliest memories of futsal would be watching my uncle play when I was probably about 10 years old. He would pick me up on a weeknight and I'd go watch him, and I think the older boys play. I'd just be on the side watching, and yeah, I was already playing soccer at the time, but futsal wasn't really something that was happening at the time. Yes, I'd do a lot of watching, and after that, I think I just got called down to pro futsal to play in a game, and that was the beginning, really.
Excellent. So that's your futsal. We have to delve back into that. You mentioned you were already playing football or soccer. How did that start? Like, how did that begin for you?
So same as the futsal. My uncle was playing, my dad was playing, my brother was also playing at the time. And growing up, I did a lot of the things that my brother was doing. So I was the annoying little sister that would follow him everywhere. And yes, I saw him playing soccer and I would play with him in the backyard and again fell in love with it, and that pretty much haven't stopped since. I think I was about 6, so yeah, a long time ago.
So it's in the family by the sounds of it.
It is definitely in the
Wow,
family.
yeah, I'm definitely getting that theme. Okay, so you've been following your family. It's part of your family culture. You've decided, I'm going to play. Where to from there? Which club did you play for? How did you start? How did you feel?
When I was little, my brother was at Cockburn Soccer Club. I guess to make it easier, my mum dropped us both off at the same time at the same club. So I also joined Cockburn City. And then not long after that, I went to Western Knights. We both moved. And then I think through that, I was picked up for NTC and state teams and, yeah, all of the identifying programs. And then Perth Glory from there, and yeah.
So when did you move to Western Knights?
Oh, I think I could have been under 12s at the time.
Under 12s, okay. And was that an all-girls team? Was it a mixed team?
It was a mixed team. At the time, there was no all-girls squads. So, yeah, pretty much with the boys from the get-go. And I think when I got to an age where I guess your body starts maturing and the boys turn a lot quicker, and that was at that point that I started to go all-girls teams, and, yeah.
Okay, and when you moved to Western Knights, it's a great club. I have played there myself. Did it have anything to do with the family, the cultural heritage?
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, I think my mum wanted to send us to a Croatian club, so that was the plan. And, yeah, we had a lot of friends that were already there, so it made the transition quite easy.
Excellent. And when you started your journey, were there any other female players that you sort of played with in your junior years that you sort of, I suppose, progressed through the ranks with?
I don't know if you've heard of Sam Kerr.
Yes, that's where I'm leading to, yeah.
So Sam was, when I moved to Western Knights, she was there as well. So our junior years we spent together before both transitioning to NTC. But yeah, she would be, it was just, I think, herself and I.
And how did you find, like, you mentioned that you played within a mixed team up until a certain age. I mean, what age was that, and how did you find yourself and Sam? How did you go through that
Well, I
those
think
stages?
in under 12s, I think it's not that noticeable just yet. So, the boys are still they haven't matured. Their bodies haven't matured yet. So I think for under 12s, we were okay to be in that league with the boys. But I think we were there for maybe 2 years together. And then as you get older, your body starts to change. And I guess we could sense that difference a little bit. And then we moved from that into NTC, being in an all-girls squad.
So we're all familiar with the NTC program now. Obviously, you moved to it and you've gone through it. How would you see the differences of the NTC back at that time? So what years would that have been, give or take?
I'm not sure.
So probably 15 years ago or so, give or take.
Yeah, probably.
So was the program similar? Did it run in similar ways? The competitions they were entered in, the seriousness of it, was it the same back then as it is now?
I feel like the professionalism now is more than it probably was back then. At the time, we were actually playing in a boys' league. So we were versing the boys when we transitioned into NTC.
Okay.
So we were obviously a girls' squad, but we moved into a boys' league. And I believe it was under 14s or 16s that we would play. We'd play against the boys.
Against the boys, okay. All right, so you're at the NTC. How long were you there for and what happened?
You're testing my memory here. And anyone that knows me knows that I have a terrible memory. Yeah, I would say I was probably in NTC for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And then, from that it became, I guess a few of us got identified for Perth Glory. So, yeah.
And then you got identified and you were asked to join the squad, is that right?
Perth Glory?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us what happened then. What happened at Perth Glory?
So, obviously the A-League started, or at the time it was called the W League. But a few of us were picked from NTC to come into the Perth Glory squad. And then, from that we started versing teams from all over Australia. And it was pretty awesome at the time because that was not a thing. It was only obviously the men's league, the A-League. So at the time it was pretty big. And I think I was 15 or 16, so I was quite young.
Hey, all right. Wow. That's pretty amazing. So you're 15 or 16, you're playing in the W League, you're being flown around Australia. That's pretty exciting. How long were you at Perth Glory? What success did you have there? What did you learn? What were your opportunities, your experiences?
So, being, I think, 16, you're obviously trying to soak it all up as much as you can. I think the early years we weren't that strong. It was a new league, lots of new players, obviously entering from outside of Australia. And then, so we had a few unsuccessful years there. But again, the development was awesome for a lot of us young ones. And I think I was there for about, I want to say 9 years, 8 or 9 years. In that time, we won the minor premiership. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, after that, I made that decision to go to Melbourne City.
Wow. So while this is happening, obviously you started at a young age and you were there for quite some time. And it sounds like it was a very successful time in terms of your development and eventually getting some great results, results are always a tangible way of measuring success. How did you go? You mentioned earlier about your family with the support. Like, did you, such a young player going through this journey, did you have like good support around you?
Yeah, I have a beautiful family. So I think my parents were really supportive. And obviously my brother, he was also backing me quite a bit. I had supportive coaches at home. And then during that time, I was also at school. I was doing high school.
Wow.
And I was travelling for Young Matildas a fair bit. So I wasn't home too much now that I look back. But I think at the time that's something that you dream of, something that you want for so long. So to live that life was, pretty wonderful at the time.
So many tangents I want to go off on. Just things that you just say very calmly and need exploration. Okay, so, all right. So I want to talk about Melbourne City and we'll get onto that. But you've just mentioned the Young Matildas. How did that happen? Tell us more.
I was in the WA state team. I think it was under 15s at the time and under 17s. And when you go on those trips, they have obviously scouts that come down and watch. And, I got identified in Coffs Harbour by Alan Stajic, actually. So he was there and he identified me at the time, and then from there we would just go into camps in Canberra. A lot of the time it was Canberra. Yeah, we'd go into a lot of those camps and you're training with the best. So
Were you staying at the AIS?
yeah. we were at the
Okay, yeah, I've
AIS.
been there in AIS. Definitely a little bit of an age facility when I was there last, but definitely a great place. I can imagine as a young kid being there and the activity that would have been there would have been a great place to be in terms of location and in terms of your career, right?
Yeah, it was very cool. You're in the dining area with a lot of athletes walking around you, some big basketball players. So as a young player and, yeah, somebody that I guess wants to do it full time, it was, yeah, very, very cool to see.
Okay, so again, lots of tangents there. You mentioned state teams, and we can go down that path, but we'll keep moving. So you moved to Melbourne City. Now that's a really big move. Tell us the decision making, how it happened, conversations that were had, what was going through your mind at the time. Tell us how did that unfold?
Yeah, so I'd obviously been at Perth Glory for a lot of seasons, and I just got to that point where I felt like I needed more and I wanted to do more. So I actually reached out to Joe Montemuro, the coach, and I spoke to Lisa Deviner about it at the time, and I put together a video. So I spent a lot of time editing my own games. I put together a video. I sent it to him. He seemed pretty happy with it. They flew me over and I had, I guess, a trial. And yeah, when I got there, they seemed pretty happy. So it kind of all just fell into place and I just rolled with the move. I had to defer uni. That was something that I had to do. So I made that decision. And yeah, it ended up being a pretty big highlight in my career looking back.
Yeah, wow. All right, so let's talk about then. I'm just imagining, so how old were you at the time when you started getting your own footage and putting it together and preparing a highlights package? And have you ever thought about starting a scouting business?
Yeah, it would have been, I think all of the A-League games early on were recorded. So I was able to I at the time got recent footage. I didn't want footage from 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I got recent footage and I just managed to just crop it and do a pretty good job of it, I think.
This could show my age, but in my mind, I just think of a young kid using VHS tapes, but this is all computer, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. So you sent this over. Coach has seen it. Thought, wow, come over. Was there any commitment from the club that you were going to be signed? Was it more come over, have a trial? Obviously, this would have been a huge time for your family. So,
yeah, I think, well, like I said, my parents were, pretty supportive, so they were all for it. So it probably eased the pressure a bit for me because I knew that I had their support. So when I did go, it was, I guess, emails back and forth, and it sounded like a trial, but it also sounded like they were pretty happy and going to go ahead. So maybe a bit of both.
excellent. But of course, nothing's certain until it's done, right?
Yeah.
So you went there. So you arrive, like, how soon were you trialing or training with the squad after your arrival? Did you have time to settle in?
I don't think so. I think I was training the next day.
Next day?
Pretty much, went there, went for the move. And I guess if I wasn't good enough, they would have sent me home.
Yep.
We've had a player at Perth Glory that came over, and it was an international player actually, and she didn't make the cut and she was sent home. So I think if you're not good enough, there's always that possibility. But yeah, I went there, I backed myself. I had a few years in the league already as experience.
Just for the listeners at home, so that would have been nerve-wracking. You've gone over there. How would you have coped if they had turned around and said, sorry?
Yeah.
What would your next move have been?
I didn't think about that, Jose, at the time.
You can't think about it, right?
Yeah, no, I went there with, one intention was to hopefully try and impress. And then I guess if I didn't get in, I would have had to have come back to Perth Glory, and I'd already made that decision too. I told them I was going to try and play for a different club and I guess broaden my experiences, and that was the plan. I didn't think about if it didn't work, Jose.
Yes. Well, like I said, that's how you've got to be. And I mean, I asked that question because I'm sure there are, I personally know of a lot of players that have gone over and trialled and it hasn't worked out for them. And it's important to, perhaps consider what happens if it doesn't work, right? Yeah. But you're an established player in the Perth Glory W League, so that was a little bit different in that way. But yeah, well done. So how long were you at Melbourne for?
So I was there for 2 seasons.
2 seasons. And in terms of your development, success? At the end of it, you look back, how did it go?
I'd say a very big part in my career that the club played in development, in confidence. It suited me as a player very much. So my years there were, beautiful ones now that I look back.
Excellent. Okay, so from Melbourne City, then where?
Melbourne City, back to Perth Glory.
Excellent. Back home.
I wanted to come home. I wanted to finish uni. And at the time, actually, Melbourne City offered me another year on my contract. So they asked to sign me for 2. I ended up playing that second year with them, but not committing to the third year. So I made that decision to come home and I guess get back into the books and become a teacher.
Okay, so 2 things. So you've come back. I assume your family, missing your family, had something to do with it?
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty big on the family side of things. So I guess when you're away from the family and you're missing out on birthdays, you're missing out on those important celebrations, those moments aren't easy. And you also choose that life. So I knew that I was going to Melbourne and that was a part of it. But I think I also, wanted to finish uni and I deferred for already a little bit. And I just wanted to tick that off and start working, come back to the family. I miss Perth Glory too. So there's nothing beats playing for your home club.
Yeah, they're a great club, aren't they?
So it was a combination of different things, I think. So at the time, it was the perfect option for me to come home.
Excellent. Okay, so you're at Perth Glory, then what?
I think I played one more year there. And then after that, I got into more of a coaching, mentor kind of role. I thought, I just don't know if I really want to play at that level anymore. Soccer, obviously. So I stepped away a little bit, started working full-time. And the last few seasons, I ended up being a bit of a player mentor. So still in the environment, still with the girls, just not playing so much.
Okay, so now a little birdie mentioned to me that you went to Croatia.
I did. That birdie was right.
Okay, so tell me, how did that come about and what was your experience there?
So that was the same. I reached out to a coach in Croatia. I was already there. I was already going to Croatia. So when I got there, I think I trained with this squad and I ended up staying there it was about 4 or 5 months. And we went to Champions League qualifiers, which was very, very cool. That was actually in the Ukraine.
Wow.
That was, I can't remember how many years ago now, but that was with a club called ZNK Split. Played with a few internationals, played with the local girls. The plan was actually to go back. So I'd moved back to Australia and the plan was to go back to Croatia and play for the national team, the senior soccer outdoor team. That was the agreement when I left. Telling you all my secrets, Jose.
I got to say, I didn't expect all of these things.
It's all coming out. But when I came back to Australia, the plan was to work for a little bit and then head back. But as I came back, COVID happened and I made the decision to stay in Australia, not go back. Keep working and I just got, stuck here. But the plan was to go back and do the whole senior national team thing.
So you could have played for the Croatian national women's football team.
Yes.
But that's very cool. And I'm sure a lot of players, their careers were affected with COVID. That was an interesting time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not just from a sporting point of view, but across the globe. So one thing I do want to touch on is your education. So you mentioned that you came back, you finished your university. Obviously for players that are travelling, that have got hopes and dreams and aspirations, how did you fit university in amongst all this football, this travelling, everything?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, that's for sure. I think you had to be very organised. Yeah, very organised as a player, as a student at uni. And like my parents were quite big on having a backup in case I get injured. If it's not a full-time thing where you get paid as a full-time professional, what are you doing? What else are you going to do? So I think my parents pushed for me having either a trade or a university degree. So I guess with their support, I was able to finish that and, continue playing at a high level. But no, looking back, it wasn't easy and I don't really know how I did it. You have your moments of stress. You have your moments of, missing training because things are due. But as much as I could, at the time, football was my priority. So, yeah, I put a lot more effort into football than I did my studies.
Okay, but obviously important because you've obviously got you're a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And you love teaching.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going to take that as a strong yes.
No, I definitely do.
Yeah. Okay, and you're currently playing in the NPLW, which is the WA National Premier League, playing for Subiaco.
I am. Yep, Subi.
Yep, been there for a while.
Been there for a few seasons now. Yeah.
Enjoying it?
I am. We have a pretty good group of girls, so training's fun. Yeah, they're good people, and I enjoy my time there, so I'm pretty happy at Subi.
All right, so now we move on to futsal. We touched on it earlier. So when did you start playing futsal? Like, can you walk us through? I mean, you mentioned how you used to go and watch family members play, but when did you really start getting involved?
I would say I was actually at Glory at the time, and under a Glory contract, you're not really meant to do sports outside of your contract. So when I wasn't at Glory, when I wasn't contracted, I would try as much as I could in the seasons to play.
Yep.
And I would say I would have been about 21-ish, something like that.
Okay, and who did you start playing with? Who was your first club?
I can't remember. Well, I just got asked to come down. I want to say it was Spearwood.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think it was through Chris Antonich.
Yeah, so Spearwood Lions, okay.
I think so.
And then through that journey, I know you've played for Coburn EWA.
Yep, I've played for Brazza.
Sterling Brazza, yes.
I've played for AFC.
Perth AFC.
And then I made the move to Coburn Wolves.
And then you're at the Coburn Wolves. All right, that's a big smile on my face. Okay. So in saying that, though, Coburn EWA, Coburn Wolves were the merger of Fremantle Wolves and Coburn EWA. So you've played,
Yep.
so you've been with us a lot longer than you think. Okay. So that's the clubs. How about some of the highlights? I mean, obviously we can discuss sort of your later exports at the Coburn Wolves, but what were some of your highlights along that journey as you were developing through futsal?
I think my time at Sterling Brazza was a special one. I was obviously playing with a lot of high quality players. So we had Ella Mastrantonio, Shannon May, Nikki Campbell. We had a really good group of girls, and it was just a matter of, I guess, just the fun that we had on the court. You've obviously I knew those girls for a long time, but to step on the court and to just enjoy it and to not have rules and to just play, I think for me that was a massive highlight in my futsal journey at a local level.
It was a very talented side, all conquering. Speaking from personal experience, I've had a couple of junior sides like that, and I know as a coach, when there's that much talent on the court, it's more about it's not about how you make the team play better, it's how you don't hinder them. Yeah. And my feeling was, because I remember watching that side, it was a very talented side. It was so much talent, so it's more so about just letting us play and express and enjoy and have fun. So that was a very strong side, very strong side. You participated in an international trip for futsal back in 2022, the NSDF Women's Futsal Championship in Thailand. Now, how was that, and how important was that to you in terms of your futsal development?
Yeah, so that was my first trip getting international experience in futsal. So I've done obviously a few trips for football where I've travelled around, but to see futsal at an international level in Thailand was, I think it just opened my eyes to where the game's at. Obviously there's still progression to be made, but I think that trip was, I got a taste of it and I loved it and I wanted more.
Look, it was great for all of us in WA, and I'm sure across Australia for those that love the game. That was definitely an exciting, what a highlight that was, just the excitement of following the team, watching you guys play against such tough competition in such a tough environment. fantastic courts, fantastic refereeing. Everything was just fantastic. That was next level.
Yeah, definitely.
So
The teams that we played, they were, I mean, I'll give you a little fact, Jose. The team that we just played, you know how we went to the qualifiers, the Asian Cup qualifiers?
yes, we're getting to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of those teams were actually at this competition, and a lot of those players were at this competition.
Wow.
So
Okay.
they're still together 4 years later, and yeah, so we versed these players a long time ago.
Wow. So then, international trip, you've come back, you've got a taste of futsal, and you've joined the Coburn Wolves Futsal Club. Again, big smile on my face. Lucky there's no cameras set up. How's your time been at the Coburn Wolves FC since you've come back?
Been nice. It's been, I think, a club that suits me. Wonderful people. Obviously, structure within the squad, but still I get a taste of that freedom, which is something that I need as a player. So thank you for that. You've been very understandable and, very approachable as a coach. So thank you for that as well. Yeah, my time at the Wolves has been great. We've got, I think, a really good group, a young group, some experienced players, but I just think the people that are involved are great people. So I'm very happy at Coburn Wolves, Jose.
Excellent. Okay, so now Australia. You've come back from international tournament. You've had a taste. Australia had never had a national women's team. The rumours begin that there could be. Social media obviously started leading towards that. How did that make you feel that there was the potential for there being a national women's futsal team?
Just the thought of it was pretty exciting. I guess there's always talk about those programs and things that are going to happen, but I think when it actually happened and when the rumours started, I had a lot of hope that it was going to be serious and it was going to be done the right way. Yeah, so once it fell into place, it was very exciting, I think, for a lot of us.
Okay, so once the actual national team was confirmed, what happened then? Like, can you walk us through how were you notified? I mean, I know they had a training camp, but how were you personally notified that you were participating in that?
I received an email, and it was actually an extended list of players first. So you hope that when they do make that cut from that extended list, that you're still on the list for the next one, which is the actual, the selected players to go into camp. And that was in Sydney. Our first camp was in Sydney, so I made that, and yeah.
Okay, well, walk us through the camp. So you got the email. You've been named to travel to the selection camp. You go to the airport. You jump on a plane, obviously, but then what? You land. What happens?
You land and you're picked up by the manager. So she grabs your bag, puts it on the bus, and you're basically heading to the hotel. And actually, Zoe Spadano.
Yes, yep.
We actually arrived a day earlier. So they even do this for the young Matildas or the Matildas. They get the Perth players flying in earlier just so you have at least one night to adjust and to rest. And obviously we travel further, so the time difference and all of that. Yeah, we arrived a day earlier, and then the next morning the players started rolling in, and yeah, it was exciting times.
Players start rolling in, and you mentioned Zoe Spadano, and obviously I've got some questions about her later on because obviously you guys have been through this journey together. So once the training camp starts, how does that? Obviously, these are all new players. These are all new people. You're having to tell us, walk us through. Coach blows the whistle, then what?
It was actually a beautiful group, to be honest. In terms of a trial situation, I think it can go either way. It can be quite stressful and players, I guess trying to take their territory nice and early. But in terms of a group, it was one of the best trial environments I've been a part of. And that maybe had something to do with Miles as well. He was quite open from the get-go with the squad and made everyone feel welcome. So I think, from the beginning it was quite a nice environment. But it's still a trial, so I guess, like you said, when the whistle blows, it's quite serious, and you're wanting to put your best foot forward and grab a spot as much as you can.
I can imagine there would have been a lot of excitement, being that it is a selection. That is a selection camp. Yeah. It's not a training camp; it's a selection camp. Yeah. The fact that the national team will be selected from players at that camp, that the excitement would have been off the charts, right?
Yeah,
How did that make you feel in terms of when you were performing in the warm-up, the drills, the activities, the practice games? Like, did it change how you played at all?
I think I guess I have a lot of experience being in Young Matildas and being in a trial of that level. So I was actually quite calm about it. Obviously, you have your moments where you're excited, you're nervous, but as a whole, I was pretty calm. I was pretty confident. The first session was a bit of a wake-up call, I think, because just the pressing from the girls. When you're on the ball, you don't have that time that you used to. So that was probably something that from the start it was different, but I just in my head knew that I had to move the ball quicker, and that was your way to get out of it.
Okay, so you've come back from the camp. You're now waiting to see if you get the call up for the national team. How did that happen? How were you notified? And how did it make you feel and all those sorts of wonderful things?
Yeah, so when you're in camp, they may say, oh, look, guys, information for the selected squad will be out in 4 days' time or by Monday. So you are counting down the days. You're thinking about it a little bit, and I think when the time came when my name was on the list and it was posted on socials, posted on Instagram and Facebook, and people are commenting and you see your name on that list, it's a very special moment. And you know that, I guess, the preparation that you've had over the years, you play for fun and you train and you do all the right things, but to see your name on the list is, it's extra special, and it's something that I hope continues to happen, and I hope it's not just the start.
Okay, so that was selection for the AFC Women's Futsal Asian Cup qualifiers. So team is selected to go there. You must perform to then get selected to make the AFC Women's Futsal Asian Cup in China. Once you arrived, again, this is another experience. You've left Australia. The team is away from their homes. You've got an objective. Tell us, how did the qualifiers go?
The qualifiers were awesome. I think our initial selection camp where nobody had a spot, like I said, the group was awesome. And I think we gelled quite well as a team going to Uzbekistan for the qualifiers. And I think, we just turned it on. We were able to get results. We played quite well. And, I think it was the beginning of the game in Australia, like the growth of the sport. We could feel it. We spoke about it. We actually had a night when we were presented our jerseys, and we had to chat about what it meant to be a player when you started and what it means now to put the jersey on. And a lot of us were in tears. A lot of us were crying because it meant so much to everyone individually that when we stepped on the court, we had a job to do. And hearing everyone's stories, I think it definitely woke up something within. That when we got out there, we were able to gel emotionally, gel on the court, and get the results that we needed.
Very special moment indeed. How was it while you were over there in terms of communicating with your family, your friends? Like, how was the support you were receiving while you were over there?
Yeah, it was quite a nice time actually. You have a lot of people reach out, a lot of people that have been a part of your journey at some point, sending you good luck messages. I had kids from school watching. I had parents watching. I had teachers. I had, football fans, so people that don't really tune into futsal too much. You were just getting messages from a lot of people. So you could feel that you were making a difference, and I think that was the most important part.
Yeah, look, social media was definitely very, very active. I know personally, and everyone that I know was checking what time the games were on and making sure they were keeping track of what was happening. Now, with us, just to take it back a few steps, so you were obviously selected to represent Australia at the qualifiers, but you were also part of the the Football West WA state futsal team, which did compete at the Nationals in Victoria, January 25, which was at the same time as the qualifiers. So we did miss you at the Nationals, but at the same time, I've got to say, there was so much buzz around the girls. We made sure we obviously watched the games. We hired rooms. We got TVs. Football West were fantastic. Alex Navatsas went above and beyond to make sure that we were able to watch your games and support. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I can only imagine that would have been huge for you. Like in terms of, I mean, we know what we felt watching you, but being there yourself, I mean, how I mean, you mentioned it was emotional before the game, but how did it feel after a win, after a goal, after a tackle, after every moment?
Yeah, I think there was like a connection within the squad, a togetherness. And when you start putting that on the scoreboard, when you start getting goals, when you start playing well, when you start winning, nothing beats that feeling. Nothing.
All right. So then, qualifiers. You've qualified for the tournament. You've achieved the objective. You've come back, and you're straight back into the Superliga season. Come back in January. How did you feel your performances or your experiences with the national team when you came back? How did you find that you were able to apply them into the Superliga A season?
Yeah, I think as soon as you come home, obviously what you've learnt in camp or from Miles, you're trying to implement as soon as you come home. So I felt, I guess, a sense of pressure in a way to perform because of, where you were at in camp. And then you come back and you want to do the same. You want to do the same things. You want to practice certain things. So I think Super League is a great environment to be able to do that and to be able to hopefully teach the young ones and help the team progress and get through each game. And yeah.
Obviously, I sort of get a closer understanding of your performances, but you've always been a fantastic player. This season here, so the summer 24-25 season, which obviously happened whilst the national call-ups were happening and the training camps were happening. So I was checking out some of the stats, and in 20 league games, you were able to you scored 20 goals, finished third in the goal scoring charts, and 20 assists. So it's a 20-20-20 season.
There you go.
Right. And obviously you got top pass master for the league. In saying that, though, the previous season, I've got some notes here. We needed a wheelbarrow for you to carry all your awards out. You got league MVP, most valuable player. You got top goal scorer, top assist getter, and grand final MVP.
Right.
Not doing too bad, I'd say.
I'm still waiting for the wheelbarrow.
Yes. You know what? We'll get you a wheelbarrow. So now, Australia has qualified for the AFC Women's Futsal Asian Cup being held in China 2025 selection camp. So there's no guarantees, obviously, that because you'd participated in the qualifiers that you would be selected. So obviously the selection camp comes along. Can you walk us through that?
So another call up for another trial, really. And like you said, your spot's never guaranteed. But I think I feel that. I know that I have responsibility each time to secure my spot. So you can't be complacent. You can't think that you've got a spot. So, yeah, I went there with pressure to get in again and to, hopefully secure a spot and a ticket to China.
So yourself and Zoe Spadano from South Perth here in WA, you both got selected. How was it the second time round? Was your experience different in any which way?
I'd say a little bit different because obviously you've had your first trial, but you're still under pressure. You're still fighting for a spot. So there's a lot of similarities to the first camp. So I think from the get go, you're trying to take in everything that Miles is trying to teach you, and he has a lot of knowledge in the game. So you're trying to take everything that he's teaching you to implement it into your training sessions and to be that player that can learn quickly and implement what he's teaching you. And that will hopefully guarantee you a spot in the squad if you train well and you're doing the right things.
So Miles Downey, he is the head coach of the national men's futsal team and also of the national women's futsal team. And he has done an excellent job. Excellent job. How have you found it?
I think Miles is excellent. He is approachable. He's kind. He's caring. And I think as a coach, those attributes are very important. So he's obviously got the knowledge of the game. He's played at a high level. But I think to also have that personal side where players can relate, and he's open and he tells stories and he's philosophical and he's just relatable. I think quite similar to you actually, Jose. He's a coach that you want to play for. That's how I feel about him. So my experience with him as a coach has been a good one, and I hope it continues.
Okay. So selection camp complete. Now you're waiting to see if you are selected to represent Australia at an international tournament. How does that feel? You're waiting. I can only assume you're counting down days again, right?
I'm counting again. Yep. I'm nervous. I'm excited. Hopeful. Yeah, it's a combination of lots of feelings.
So how did you find out? Email or social media? How does it work?
Email first, and then we have to be quiet for a bit, and then it goes to socials.
Okay, yeah, I can relate to the being quiet,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so how long did you have to be quiet for until you could mention anything?
I think it was confidential for about 2 days.
That's a long time.
It is.
Did you have a smile on your face?
I definitely
for
did.
2 days, a bigger smile than normal?
I did. It was huge, yep.
Okay, so you've been selected to represent Australia. You're now part of the squad to compete at the AFC Women's Futsal Asian Cup China 2025. Okay, so walk us through, because you guys left a week earlier, give or take.
Yeah, about a week, yep. We went to, Zoe and I flew to Sydney first to meet the players. We all flew in around the same time and we jumped on the plane and we headed for China about 5 or 6 days prior to the tournament starting.
Excellent. So 5 or 6 days. And what were those 5 or 6 days like? What did they consist of?
We had the first day to, I guess, walk around, be in the hotel, get over your jet lag a little bit. We had time to sleep. We had meetings, but no training, which was, I guess, good for the first day because you're not feeling that great. It was actually quite a long travel day. So, yeah, we had that time to just walk around and be around each other, I guess. And then I think the second day we got into training. So that's when we kicked into tournament mode.
Okay. And how many times a day were you training?
Once.
So once a day?
Yep.
Okay. And where were you training? Were you training at the venue itself?
So if it was match day -1, the day before we were at the venue, but all other sessions were at a different venue.
Okay. And you mentioned meetings earlier. So did you have many meetings during that time of the pre-tournament stage?
Yeah. We had meetings to discuss, obviously what was coming up, the teams we were going to be playing. Yeah, just trying to fine-tune that preparation as a squad to be ready for the first game.
Accommodation. How was it?
Incredible. We stayed at a very nice place.
Excellent. Acclimatization. How long did it take? What goes through my mind, and when we talk about travel, especially internationally, there are so many things that change. I mean, you mentioned jet lag. Obviously, the time difference wasn't too relevant in this situation. But you also start talking about being away from home, being away from your support network, eating different foods, sleeping in different beds, someone potentially else doing your washing, not having your wardrobe, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these different things. So how quickly did you find personally that you were able to change into tournament mode? Well, you're there to focus and you're there to get a job done.
Yeah, I would say maybe 2 or 3 days. I think once we got that first session out of the way, you started to feel pretty good. But it's just that initial session when you're running around and you think you feel good, you don't. The jet lag and the legs are quite heavy. You're not hitting passes. So I think that first session, Miles actually said it, the first session's always they called it, I think, a pancake session. It's always pretty bad, even for the men apparently. So
that's a great term.
Yeah, we got the first session out of the way, and then I think after that it was started to feel, I wouldn't say a bit more at home, but a bit more comfortable.
Okay, so pre-tournaments almost over. You're now heading into the tournament commencement, playing the first game of the tournament against a host nation after a pretty cool opening ceremony. What were your nerves when you're walking out?
Well, we didn't actually see the opening ceremony.
Oh,
Yeah, so we were actually in the change room at the time, and it was all happening. We'd had our warm-up, and then I believe when we were in the change room, it was all happening. So we actually missed it. But, yeah, I guess in warm-up when you start seeing, the fans of China rolling in and with their drums and the loudness, you could definitely sense a few of the young ones getting quite nervous, and I was a little bit nervous myself. But I think, yeah, it's all part of it. It's the anticipation of kickoff, and I think once you start actually touching the ball, all your nerves start to slowly go away.
there was a good atmosphere that game, wasn't it?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
You could not hear your teammates. It was pretty cool.
All right, so the organisation of the tournament, I mean, the opening ceremony was one example, but from what I could see from the outside, how they organised that tournament was fantastic. It just seemed like it was professionally run, well planned, well thought out. Did you get that feeling being within the tournament yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think the AFC, they know how to run a tournament. They've obviously got lots of experience, but everything was ran, really well, and things were quite smooth.
Now, the very high level of opposition, how did it feel playing against such strong squads, players? What was your feel being on the court? How did that go?
Yeah, it was a fantastic challenge, and I feel like I tried to embrace it. You have your moments where you're under the pump, you're feeling the pressure, you've just conceded, but I think I like those moments. I like those moments as a player. It's all good to win 9-0, but when you get to that level, it's not that. It's every single moment matters, and I think when we versed China, the first game, we kicked off and they straight away went fifth man, and straight away you took a step back because it was a reality check in a way. They came out aggressive and we didn't expect it, so you have to adjust to every single moment, and it's quite hard as a player. It's hard, but I think it was a good challenge for us as a squad, and it went well. But hopefully the next time we do something like this, it'll be even better.
Well, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The fact that we were there, for me, is huge. Of course, there's always lots of discussions to have from every game, from every moment, from every training session. And the fact that we're able to have these conversations, for me, is just huge. How did you find, moments of the game? Obviously, they're playing against tough teams, tough squads, but moments, like did you have to adapt? Did you have less time on the ball? Tell us what was happening from on the court in moments.
Definitely less time on the ball. And the hard part was you would make a run and the players, obviously at that level, players can read you. So you feel like you're making quite a good run, but that player's read it, they're tracking you. You now have to think of something different. So I think just adapting in each moment and I guess being creative, solving problems. It was like a puzzle at times where you didn't have that piece, it wouldn't work, and then you'd have to do something else. So I think it was difficult. It was difficult, but it was a good challenge, and it was great as a player to be tested at that level.
Wow. Yeah, I suppose, like I mentioned earlier, when you do travel, the little things make a huge difference. So next time at training, when I mention to add a check-in to something.
I better do it.
right, because in a game, those little things that we get away with sometimes, don't we? It just sort of happens. We get away with them in perhaps our local leagues, but when you're playing against opposition that is playing technically, from a tactical point of view at a different level, those moments can make the difference between creating a goal-scoring opportunity or saving a goal-scoring opportunity or just creating some space, don't they? Now, you mentioned earlier that you'd played against some of these players at the previous tournament, the NSDF Women's Futsal Championship. So what relation did you find in the teams that you played against in that tournament in relations to the teams that were in this tournament?
Well, I think it was, mostly the Thailand team and the Indonesian team. We versed them, I would say 4 years ago when we went to that tournament, 3 or 4 years ago. I remember those players, and a lot of them are still playing together. So when we did see them this tournament, the Asian Cup, their connection on the court, their ability to read each other, their touches on the ball, their creativity, everything, ball speed, all the simple things, they've definitely come a long way since our time in Thailand. And I guess they've had 3 or 4 years of building together as a squad, and they made the grand final. So very exciting times for them as a team.
Well, there's just so many facets to the game, isn't it? I mean, futsal, it can be a simple game, but at the same time, it can be an extremely complex game. So, obviously making sure that we focus on developing the game in Australia is huge. It's so important for us because we've seen now the pathways are opened, not only for the players, but also other opportunities that are presented that come along with those tournaments. So, obviously providing opportunities for players to play at that level is huge because we get to see what we need to work on, right? And it's like anything, everything is a work in progress. Even the teams that that would have done extremely well, winning those tournaments or other tournaments, you always have to stop and assess where can we improve, what can we change, how can we evolve, because the game is evolving, like you mentioned. So, absolutely brilliant to see players competing at that level. And personally, I'm very excited because it just goes to show that we do want to be there, and we've definitely got the potential to do extremely well there. And I think we did extremely well, all things considered. And the amount of potential we have in Australia to grow the game, to be able to compete at a higher level, it's just very exciting, isn't it?
It's very exciting. And we've got the players.
Definitely got the players.
It's definitely, it's definitely possible.
Okay, so refereeing at this tournament, it looks so good. The refereeing, it looks so good. Was it as good as it looked?
It was good. They're very professional. Yeah, they were quick to make decisions. And I think at that level, they're just, they're better, right? They're awesome.
I've got to say, at the Futsal Nationals in Victoria, I've got to say the refereeing there was superb. Like they had teams of 5 referees, obviously fully mic'd up. So we've got a very high level of refereeing in Australia too as well, don't we? Yeah. I just had to throw that in there because I could see the refereeing at this tournament was fantastic, but we've got very high levels here as well. So kudos to all the referees in Australia. Unfortunately, the result didn't go away against China. What was the feeling after that game?
I think before the game, we knew it was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be a challenge. We knew that they were the host nation and they'd had, I think, 100 days together as a squad. So their preparation was pretty good leading into the tournament. But once we started playing, I think that we weren't that far off. We had chances. We played pretty aggressive. I just think, at the end of the day, they took their chances and they were able to come out with a win. But in terms of, I think, our preparation in comparison to theirs, we actually did quite well. Yeah. And if we played them again, maybe we would win that one. Yeah.
Definitely had opportunities. I've got to say, throughout the 3 games, there was opportunities throughout. So those games could have gone either way, really, depending on, unfortunately, if we'd put some chances away, they could have gone differently. Preparation for the second game. What's the vibe? Ready to go?
Ready to go, needing a result. So pressure. That's what I felt as a player. And again, we had chances, and it was, I guess, the same story. We just couldn't put them away. We conceded some soft goals. And international football tournaments like this, if you do those things, you get punished. And I think that was a game. Maybe we were a bit complacent as a squad. So I think your preparation leading into it affects the result as well. So maybe if we'd prepared a little bit different, weren't so complacent, and put our chances away and did the right things. We should have, and we would have won that game.
Look, I've got to say that game there, one thing that stood out for me was their goalkeeper just had a great game.
She was phenomenal.
She was fantastic. And the goalkeeping throughout the tournament, I've got to say, was at a very high level. And that's sort of the way the game's going nowadays, that the goalkeeping is just developing technically. They're advancing in their techniques, just absolutely fantastic. But that game in particular, and obviously our Australian goalkeepers were phenomenal as well throughout the tournament. But that second game, that goalkeeper did extremely well. She had, So we didn't put our chances away, but geez, she was great. So look, and that's something for us to take away from the tournament too, that we do have to try and find ways. Those goalkeepers are out there and they're getting better, and there's more of them now, unfortunately. Defenses are getting stronger, so we just have to keep trying to find ways to score goals. Isn't it?
And I think each time we had a chance, she would save it and her confidence would just grow.
And that happens. That's right. That happens. You know, they get a lead, or they're just confident and they're hanging on. And the more you're right, the more that's what it looked like to me. Yeah. She just was missing a cape. She was like a superhero for him. She was amazing. Right. So for me, the performance wasn't not so. It was just we just weren't able to score. Right. That was a big. That's a big issue in any game. If you don't score, it's going to be hard to win, right?
Of course. And then
it's impossible to win.
Yeah, well, we also versed that team. They had a few changes, but we versed that team in Uzbekistan and we beat them. So, you know.
Same goalkeeper?
No, different goalkeeper.
Okay.
That's the difference.
All right, there you go. We've nailed it. We've identified the issue. Now coaching. Look, the coaching staff, they looked extremely professional. They represented Australia extremely well, very, very well. Yeah, can you expand on your experience?
Yeah, a good one. In terms of the coaching staff, they gave us everything that we needed. They were professional. They were available. You know, we could always just ask questions in camp when we were away. We had physios. We had a doctor that travelled from Australia with us. So, yeah, in terms of the coaching and the staff that got to travel with us, yeah, really professional, and I think that helped make the experience what it was.
Yeah, no, great job by Football Australia. Everything just looked exactly how you would hope it to be. So thank you, Football Australia. In terms of the third game, a lot of pressure on that third game. There were still chances, right? We still could have progressed. Obviously, we needed things to fall our way. What was the feeling leading up to that game?
It was, clearly a must-win game. We all felt the pressure. I think the coaching staff felt the pressure. We needed a result. We needed things to go our way. Yeah, it was a combination of different types of pressure. And I think that, once we got out there, and we played pretty well. We actually played that was probably our best game. But again, if you don't score, you don't win. But, I think in terms of a performance, we turned it on that game. But in tournament football, it was a little bit too late.
I agree with you. It was definitely the best performance, I think, of the three games. Unfortunate not to get the result. It could have gone our way. But obviously, one thing as a viewer I could take away from that was everyone gave everything. Everyone gave everything. I think everyone that walked away from that tournament, that game in particular, would be happy with how they contributed.
Yeah. I think that was the sad part was, we played so well that last game. Why couldn't we do that the first two games? So it was quite hard to swallow that pill of knowing that you're out, knowing that you've played probably one of your better games in the tournament, and it wasn't enough. So I think, although there were good signs, again, I think if we could play that game one more time, I think we can win that one.
I think so too, but that comes from experience, right? I mean, let's face it, we're new to playing futsal in the women's game on the international scene, so that'll come with time. A lot to work on. There's a lot of hope, a lot of potential. So all in all, I think it was fantastic. Okay, so things didn't go away. They didn't go away, right? How did everyone sort of that day, that night, the next day, what was the feel in the camp?
Disappointment. We'd gone there with our own little goals as a squad individually, and I think when you don't achieve what you'd set out to do, it was difficult for everyone to go to sleep that night, to wake up that next morning knowing that our time was cut short. So it was a sad time, actually. A lot of tears, a lot of emotional support for people. Yeah, it wasn't nice.
Yeah, look, I can imagine it would have been a tough time for the squad, but overall, what Australia achieved at that, what was, officially our first tournament, to be able to perform at that level, look, I think everyone should be very proud of what they've done there. Now, I've got to ask about Judy Connolly. So
Friend Judy.
Yeah, at the qualifiers. So she's obviously another Coburn Wolves player, selected to play for the Philippines national futsal team. At the qualifiers, you got to play against her.
Yes.
How was that?
That was fun. I think it's nice versing a familiar face, and obviously playing with her here, being a teammate, to now go up against her at an international level. It's you've both got a job to do, but it's quite nice seeing a friend of yours on the other side.
I can imagine. Now, she was at this cup playing for the Philippines in a different group. Did you get to see her, catch up with her? How do tournaments work? Do you see other teams? How does it work?
So our hotel, we had other teams. We had Iran, stay at the same place, Vietnam, China, Chinese Taipei, Australia, and Uzbekistan. So I believe Judy would have been at the other hotel with the other teams. So we didn't actually cross paths.
Wow, okay, all right, fair enough. Look, so the Philippines, they also didn't qualify for the next round, but in saying that, they are the host nation for the FIFA World Cup later on this year. So obviously they've qualified through hosting that World Cup itself. So it's going to be interesting to see how she goes. It's going to be exciting to be able to watch that and actually have a local player, WA player, Coburn Wolves player competing at the World Cup. How huge is that?
Yeah, it's massive. I think exciting for her. She deserves it. She's a great person, great player. And I think that, having a Coburn Wolves player playing at a tournament that big is enormous. Enormous for the club, enormous for her. And I think she'll be great. She'll be awesome.
She's a great player, great person, like you said. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting to follow. Look, she's a Coburn Wolves player, but at the end of the day, she's, I think all of Australia should be getting behind her and backing her in that tournament. Such a huge achievement. What advice would you provide any players keen to play for the Australian national futsal team?
I would say you have to keep going. You have to. I think when I started, obviously there was no team, so you are playing because you love it, and you never know that you're going to get that call up. But when that call up happens, you want to know that you've done the right things leading up to the call up, to then get into camp and actually do a good job to get in. So my advice would be fall in love with the game, watch it, play it, and enjoy it.
It's a great answer. Yeah, look, as a coach, I've got to agree with you. Like, you can't get the call up and then expect to prepare in between. The call up's not going to come, and then when you do go there, if you're not ready for it, you're not ready for it. Simple as that. So it's about the build up. It's doing the little things at training. It's making sure that you do train. Make sure you're ready for it when it comes, and hopefully you can grab the opportunity with both hands and enjoy it, regardless of the outcome. All right. So, Marianna, every episode I'll be asking my guest if they can provide one of their favourite futsal moments, and I'll be providing my own moment as well. What is one moment that you would like to mention?
I think when you're in the change room and you walk in and you see your T-shirt hanging on the coat hanger, and you see your surname and you know, I guess, all of the years that you've put into the game, into training, into sessions, and you put that T-shirt on and you walk out for the national anthem and you hear that song and you know that you're about to go into battle for your country. I don't think you can beat that feeling. It hits you in the heart. It hits you very hard. And, yeah, it's a feeling that if you haven't experienced it, it's quite hard to understand. But I think that moment for me is probably one of my most special moments.
It's a great moment. Wow.
What would be yours, Jose?
Yes, well, one of my favourite moments. You commented that I've laminated the emails that I've received that notify the Cobra Wolves that one of their players has been selected to represent Australia. It's laminated for a reason. So look, one of my favourite moments as a coach would have to be the knowledge that I've played a part in a player's journey and development, and that player has been selected to play for the Australian national futsal team. Absolutely huge. That moment of, wow. It's hard to encapsulate, but it's a very, and I don't want to limit it trying to describe it in words because it's more than I can possibly describe. But from that perspective, for me, that was a huge moment, just knowing that I've played a part in your journey and you're representing Australia. Yeah, absolutely huge, absolutely huge. And I've got, like I said, geez, unlimited. I'll say unlimited, infinite moments of favourite moments of futsal. But that was definitely up there, knowing full well that Marianna Tabain, who, going to be playing for Australia. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey.
I should be saying thank you to you, Jose. You've played an enormous part in my journey. Obviously, more so the futsal side, but the person that you are, what you do for players, I feel how much you care, and I think all the players do. So I think we should be saying thank you to you. You're awesome. You're a great coach, great person, and hopefully you get a few more of these.
I really do. I really hope that's something that I'm striving for. I want to help as many players as possible to achieve their best, whatever that may be. If it's representing Australia, fantastic. If it's playing at the highest level in WA or basically whatever that's definitely I think the role. Hopefully the role of every coach. Okay, well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I would like to thank you, Marianna, for joining us on the Futsal First podcast and sharing your journey so far. Got to say, I'm very excited to have you back. Very excited to have you back as the Coburn Wolves prepare for the upcoming season. We will keep adding to your highlights as a group, as players, as coaching. We'll do everything we possibly can so that all the players in the squad are able to perform at their highest level, like I said, whatever that may be. And, of course, thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We've got more great conversations coming your way, so stay tuned. Until next time, vamos!